What's up guys, remember if you want to support the channel, remember to use code thebluecrusader in the Fortnite creator code box in the item shop. This will help support the channel whenever you buy any skins, V-Bucks or any items. Also, if you want to join the monthly giveaway, the link will be in this description. If you miss this giveaway, the next month's giveaway will be in the latest video's description. Thanks. What's up guys, my name is Dean, aka thebluecrusader, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be showing you some tips and tricks on how to aim better in Fortnite Battle Royale and improve your aiming through a lot of various techniques. Now this is actually probably my most highly requested video, and in the background I'm just lagging a little bit because I've just loaded into Playground. So we've just loaded into Playground just so I can kind of explain some of these tips and tell you guys how to actually aim better in Fortnite. Now when I'm playing Playground, a lot of people compliment me on my aim. Some people are surprised, some people even say that I've got an aimbot. I've been called an aimbot on multiple times, even though it's clearly obvious if you watch my live streams that my aim is legit. But I do have a pretty accurate aim, and a lot of people, including one or two of the people that are actually regulars on my channel, have actually asked me to make this video and actually tell you guys how I actually aim better, because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't really know the little tips and tricks you can do. A lot of people don't really understand it, so I'm just going to kind of show you some basics today. So the first one is actually bloom. Now to explain bloom is basically something that comes into effect when the crosshair opens and closes like that. As you can see, the more you spray, the more your crosshair opens and closes. So it causes the cone of fire to open and close depending on how you fire the weapon. In simple terms, bloom is basically coming into effect when you spray, when you hip fire, and when you jump. So if you're running as well, or if you jump, or if you hip fire, bloom's going to come into effect. Bloom is basically meaning that anywhere around your crosshair, in a circle around your crosshair, the shots that you shoot could go anywhere around there. It won't just go in the little dot in the middle, which is in the center of your crosshair. It can go anywhere around the crosshair. Now to actually fix this, you have to aim in. When you aim in, you have to stay still, and when you stay still, your crosshair kind of pinches and gets a lot smaller. Now when it pinches and gets a lot smaller, basically what this does is, what's coming into play here is the first shot accuracy. Now on Fortnite, a few patches ago or a few seasons ago now, it's actually been here for quite a long time, they actually rewarded people who have better aim by introducing first shot accuracy. If you just jump like that, the bullet might go in a random place. It might hit the center of your crosshair, it might not. But if you go in first shot accuracy, where you have to stand still or crouch, basically the crosshair will go really small, and if you shoot at a perfect fire rate and shoot only when the crosshair closes really small, your shots will hit every single time in the center of the crosshair where that little dot is. Now this is kind of hard to actually understand, but basically it's rewarding you for having good aim. What you can do is you can actually crouch up, then right click. If you crouch up and aim, your crosshair is not going to shrink instantly. It's going to take like a little second. This is basically to prevent people that used to peek and just first shot accuracy spam people. Basically, to actually counteract this, you can crouch, then hold right click, and your shot will instantly be first shot accurate. So this is basically the way to peek people. So you can crouch and shoot them like that, and your aim will be more powerful. First shot accuracy is something you need to practice. Now coming from a lot of FPS games myself and playing a lot of hours of things like H1Z1, which is a third person battle royale a little bit similar to this, but it has a different style. Aim is very important still in Fortnite. It does still have its places in this game. So coming from games like this, I did play probably a few thousand hours in just purely practicing my aim to get good at those games. So that's mainly why my aim's good. And aim and fundamentals are kind of the same in every game. There's just a few different factors which are different, which we'll actually explain later. So the more you spray, the more inaccurate your shot will be, like I said, because of bloom. And when you spray, the bullets are going to go anywhere around your crosshair in that center of fire. If you just practice shooting at a steady fire rate, you want to always shoot so the crosshair gets the tiniest it can. If you shoot kind of constantly like this, the crosshair is going to kind of stay in the same place, the same shape, and it's going to keep getting bigger the more you spray. But if you shoot and tap fire at a constant rate where the crosshair is always tiny, this basically means that your shots are going to be 100% accurate. And especially if you can actually train your aim to actually have better crosshair placement, which means you're actually aiming better as a whole. If you can actually get your crosshair on those heads and you can constantly hit heads, this is going to be so dangerous when you actually come into a normal game or if you're in a playground, because you're literally just going to delete people. Now we want to move on to spraying and explain a little bit more in depth on spraying. Spraying can be useful and bloom can be utilized long range, only when you need it and when it's necessary, because it can actually still be pretty useful to use. So I've trained to a point where I can tap fire from extremely long distances, up to 200 meters or more. The further away the target is, it gets harder and harder to hit the perfect shot, so sometimes spraying and using that bloom to your advantage can actually be useful to hit lucky shots from a distance, especially because they'll hit in a random place around your crosshair. So if someone was like 300 meters away, if I kind of spray like this, basically you still want your crosshair dot in the middle to be on them, but even if the crosshair opens up and you're spraying, you can still hit lucky shots on people from a distance, and sometimes you can spray and actually hit shots. Obviously you want to kind of do it pinpoint like I do it, but when they get really far away or you kind of lose the momentum, you can kind of spray a little bit as long as your crosshair's on them, and it can actually be useful in certain situations to actually hit lucky shots. Practice tap firing basically against friends in playground. Practice spraying because you can utilize both in your gameplay. Usually spraying works at an optimal level close to mid-range due to the spread of the weapon. Obviously at shorter range the spread is going to be less and the target's going to be bigger due to them being closer, but it can still be used in long range if done correctly. So tap firing is usually best at mid to long range, but sometimes can be effective at close range. This is mainly just because in mid range and semi-long range you can hit perfect shots, and close range the target's going to be super close, so you obviously want to use an SMG or a shotgun, but sometimes you can still tap fire at close range depending on which weapon you've actually got equipped. Remember, moving, jumping or shooting like we mentioned initially will affect bloom, and if you hip fire you'll be using bloom and the shot could go anywhere around your crosshair. As you can see, the crosshair is going to open up really big when you spray at a hip. Even if you tap, it's still going to be entirely open when you move or when you jump or when you spray. So make sure when you're spraying at the hip that you're still getting the middle crosshair on the target, and then you might actually get lucky and still hit the bullets. Obviously you're only going to get good aim if you actually either stand still and aim in, or if you crouch and aim in, basically just if you ADS, which is aiming down the iron sights in general. I will give some tips on sniping in a different video guide because there's a lot of different fundamentals and kind of core game mechanics you need to learn, and there's a lot of tips which I can give you for sniping. Usually crouching can only be useful obviously if you're building and you have to get cover or crouch behind some kind of cover. Unless you're confident with your aim, crouching in the open can be good, but crouching will make your shot more accurate, since before I told you running and jumping affects your shot and it brings bloom into effect. Remember, we only want bloom to come into effect when we're hip firing or jumping or spraying when we need to, so you want to kind of tighten that cone of fire by aiming down the iron sights. One other thing is bullet travel time. Now this is another factor which comes into play because not all your shots are going to instantly go to the target, because bullets move at an extremely high velocity and an extremely fast speed in simple terms, but they don't travel instantly in every circumstance. So bullet travel time is something that's going to have to actually be noted when you're actually training your aim, and this is really super important because the further the target is away from you, the longer the bullet is going to take to hit the target in game. So that's basically how bullet travel time works. Luckily, Fortnite is a game designed to be playable by all different ages. Obviously a lot of kids play this game, obviously a lot of adults play this game, so there is luckily kind of like a skill tier and a skill gap, which means because of this, luckily for us, there's not actually much of a time for shots to connect, so there's not really that much of a high bullet travel time in this game. Obviously other games, especially H1Z1, have crazy bullet drop and bullet travel times, something which we're going to cover next, so this isn't too much of an issue for us. Even at ranges with AR, it's not really too much of a problem. This is more of an issue with snipers though. So the next tip which I'm going to actually talk about, or factor, is actually bullet drop. Now this is another factor. Bullet drop is basically the drop off point for a bullet. For an example, a bullet will lose speed at longer ranges and lose velocity and will drop off in an arc. So it'll basically drop off at an arc at the end of its travel point and drop down rather than go continuously in a straight line when it connects to the target. So in some cases you may need to slightly aim above your opponent's head or above the hitbox, like the body, at a long range, just to make sure you hit them. This isn't too important in Fortnite as a whole, and it's not really too much of an issue in comparison to other games. Like I said before, H1Z1 has crazy bullet drop and that's crazy hard to learn aiming on, and just like bullet travel time, it's more of an issue with snipers rather than other types of weapons. So you don't really need to worry about bullet drop at all really with ARs, but you do need to worry about them when it comes to snipers, because obviously when you use a sniper, I'm going to give you more tips on snipers in a different video, but I just want to use this as an example. When you use a sniper, there's a few different lines here. There's the main line in the middle, and then there's a few different lines below, which are small and large. 8 lines underneath the main line in the center, and basically at different ranges you need to line up these lines with the opponent's head, and it helps you hit shots at longer ranges, because at each longer range, basically the higher your scope needs to be to account for bullet drop, because with snipers they drop off in an arc like we described before. But since this is more on how to aim with ARs and pistols, this is something which you really don't need to take too much into an account with. I actually changed my mouse DPI and mouse sensitivity for this to try and mirror somewhere in between what the pro players were using. Most of the pro players use a 0.08 mouse sensitivity and around somewhere in the 400 to 700 mouse DPI range. To change your sensitivity, you can access it from the Fortnite main menu in the options, and most mouses do have a little DPI button. I'm not sure if you can see this here. There is actually a button here. There is 2 different buttons. These are to go up and down in DPI. Your mouse might be different. It might have 1 button on there to alternate the modes. And with my mouse, basically, if I change the DPI, the mouse color changes. But I put it on the lowest DPI because that's my custom setting, and I think I use 600 DPI, but I'm not sure. It might be 500, but I'm pretty sure I do use 600. Most mouses do have a DPI button like I just showed you on top with standard presets, but to change the actual DPI value of these presets, for example, each mouse actually might let you alternate between different values, so you might have like 600 DPI, 1200, 2400, but to actually change these values, what your button actually changes it to, you might actually need the mouse software and driver installed, what comes with your mouse, and you can actually access this off maybe the CD or download it from the mouse manufacturer's website to actually get the software. So once you've got the driver and software, I know Logitech does this, my mouse does this, and it's basically just a cheap Chinese mouse that I got off Amazon. So most mouses that are actually good or designed for gaming, if it were, should actually have mouse software or a driver which will actually allow you to change the DPI. Now I changed it to 600 because I think, or maybe 400, I can't remember, because it was the lowest that I could go. But basically, try and get a mouse DPI in the range of 400 to 700, somewhere in between there. That's what everyone uses. Some people even use 800, but I'd recommend somewhere from 400 to 700. I personally like 600 or 400. I think they're the best values, but the lowest you can go, the more accurate it's going to be. But it's going to be a big difference, because if you're changing your values, you're going to have to practice your aim completely from the start, because it's going to basically be, if you have a low DPI and sensitivity, you're going to have to move your mouse more, so it's going to take longer for your crosshair to get to your enemy. You're going to have to move it more on your actual mouse pad. Now it should say mouse sensitivity. Now one thing to note is both values, sensitivity X and sensitivity Y, should be the same value, because otherwise it'll be really weird, because your mouse will have a different sensitivity when you move along the X axis to the Y axis, so you want to make sure that that's completely the same. Now I put it on 0.8, you can put it on 0.10 or something, but I'd recommend 0.8 because I think that's the best. Now obviously you do have different sensitivities for scopes. I just left it on 1 because that works well for me, but I'll cover that in the sniping video as well. The strongest hipfire AR to use is the burst AR. Basically the FAMAS kind of works in the same regard, but I found the burst AR, which is basically the normal AK, not the heavy version, is actually the best. Now I don't have one to show you currently. This is the best to use when doing jump shots and close range. If you don't have a weapon like a shotgun or an SMG for close range, sometimes you can actually use the AK as a close range weapon, the burst AR. Now it sounds pretty bizarre, especially if you haven't done it before, but I'll actually tell you why this is the case. Now the burst AR, the reason why it's so good is it does actually have the smallest cone of fire. This is because the spread of the bullets is actually in a tighter cone, so it's kind of more closer together, the bullets are. Obviously if you spray them with something like a SCAR, the bullets will go all over the place, but a burst AR shoots like 4 or 5 bullets at the same time, and they're all in a cone, and they're actually pretty tight as a cone together. So this means the bloom isn't really as bad on this weapon, and you can hip fire, and you can even make nice jump and hip fire shots, which connect a lot more to the targets and can be used as a last resort in close range, even when your shotgun or SMG is low on ammo or completely depleted. So it can be a lot harder to hit shots because of the bloom when you hip fire them, but you can actually get a lot of lucky shots with it. All you need to do when you hip firing is just try and aim for the target in the middle dot and just hope that the bloom will actually work in your favour. So try practicing with all weapons. The shooting core fundamentals are mostly the same. Practice single shooting with an AR, which is really useful for when you use the hand cannon or other powerful weapons that are semi-auto. So practicing with the AR is going to work the same as the hand cannon because it's just the same shooting fundamentals, and it's also one shot. But obviously the hand cannon takes a lot longer to actually go into single shot mode, so you're going to have to wait like 2 or 3 seconds for the hand cannon to reset into single shot mode. Obviously the normal AR, when you shoot, it kind of resets instantly in like maybe half a second. You can run different weapon combos once you're better at aiming, which can be deadly. My most favourite power combo is the heavy AR and the deagle or the hand cannon, which I've actually got here to show you. Now I was actually pretty lucky in this playground because I actually managed to find this matchup. So basically what you do is you use a heavy AR to hit some shots at an enemy, maybe hit 1 or 2 headshots if you're lucky, and then switch to the deagle to either finish them off, hit a headshot, or use it because a deagle can actually destroy 1 piece of wood instantly, so it can be really nice to hit down someone's base pieces. So finally, how do you actually practice your aim? Now I'm going to go through some tips. So core aiming can be practiced in Fortnite itself through Playground. I've been playing in Playground throughout this whole video just to kind of show you it. Obviously you can do it with friends, or you can go on fill mode with random enemies, although a lot of these matchups can be most likely experienced players. When I go in Playground, I don't usually find no skins or defaults or anyone of like a lower skill tier. It's usually people like me who are like trying to practice and get better, but most of these people are usually a lot better already. They're not noobs, they're already really good, and they're just kind of like solidifying the gameplay. So most people you find in Playground will already be really good at the game. However, most people I find haven't really got a good aim, they're just god tier at building. So if you're good at building, it's kind of a good idea to practice aim in Playground, even if you have to fill it, because most people are only good at building. They think that aim doesn't really matter in this game, which it does because both have a place, but obviously building's more important. One other tip is, like I said before, aiming in all games is basically the same. You're basically just trying to get your crosshair on the enemy. It doesn't matter if it's first person or third person. When it comes down to it, you kind of just want your crosshair on the enemy, just to practice how fast you can move your crosshair. You can actually even practice this in CSGO and you'll still get better at Fortnite because you're just going for crosshair placement. There's actually something called the workshop in CSGO where you have custom maps, and there's a lot of different aiming maps to aim the different weapons in the game, and this can actually help you improve on Fortnite. Also, another great internet site is something called 3daimtrainer.com. I'll actually drop this link in the description below. Now, this is something which you can set any game you want on it. So what I mean by that is you can actually practice your aim for all different games. It actually allows you to select which game you want to practice for, and Fortnite is actually one of them on there, and it'll give you a few different weapon presets you can use. You can change all the variables, customize all the variables, change all the presets and settings, and it puts you in an arena mode basically to practice your aim. So it's a really nice little mini game you can play, and it runs directly through your web browser, and you can even play in full screen mode, and it's actually super useful to practice your aiming. The recoil isn't entirely accurate for Fortnite, if I'm honest, but the aiming fundamentals, like I literally keep saying throughout this whole video, are the same, and it's actually a really good useful website to use. And not only can you use it on Fortnite, you can actually use it to practice for other games, so I'd really recommend that site. I hope these tips did actually help you. If they did, please take one moment to smash the like button on the video and also subscribe. It only takes a second and it really helps me out and makes me happy that you actually support the channel, because we do want to grow the channel and I want to keep making really helpful tip videos and awesome videos like this for you guys, because a lot of you guys are requesting them, and I want to make sure that I do actually make the videos you guys want me to make. So even if you're new on the channel, definitely do like and click subscribe if this helped you, because I do want people to get better at Fortnite, and I do want to continue to create these awesome helpful guides for you guys, because a lot of you guys are enjoying them. So I will drop some more soon. I'll probably drop a guide on how to build faster. I did drop one recently on a few tips, but I want to make a more in-depth building guide video, and I'll probably do a tip video on keybinds and also another tip video on how to snipe, because these are some things which a lot of people keep asking me about on live streams as well. So make sure to enter this month's giveaway so you don't miss out. You can enter it by clicking the link below. It's a Gleam giveaway. Now, the giveaway will end soon. This is the December giveaway, so make sure you enter it today as soon as possible. But alternatively, if you miss this month's giveaway, you can enter the next month's giveaway by checking out my latest video on my channel, and the link to each month's giveaway will always be in the description of the latest video. So make sure to check that out and subscribe so you don't miss giveaways, because that's the best way to actually check them out. Also, if you want to support the channel out, if this guide was useful and you want to do more than subscribing, or you don't have any money to donate on the live streams but you still want to directly support me and the channel, what you can do is you can go into the Fortnite item shop and you can actually use the creator code thebluecrusader, which actually directly helps out the channel. So thanks for watching, hope this guide helped you, and I'll see you next time.
attacker. Punk, you better back up.